right, guys. This shooting AKs in business can be a martial art. Oh, yeah! It'll work good. Howdy guys, Rex here. Yes, Rex does like to run the AK. If you've been watching the channel for any time, you've seen us running around forever with these things, throwing the magazines all over Kingdom Come, part of a future archaeological excavation, I'm sure, finding all these different magazines laying around, trying to find an excuse for what the heck them might have been good for, maybe bottle openers or something. But at any rate, the AK, as many of you know, is the automatic Kalashnikov pattern rifle, lots of different configurations. It also stands for the Angel King if you watch TV. If you are going to use it in real life, you could call it the Ass Kicker, the Animal Killer if you're a sportsman. If you're a communist rebel, you could call it the Antifa Confuser because they don't really know how to run them that well. And Confuser with a K to, meet their Soviet leanings in spelling it with a K. Also, you could call it the Atrocious Clunker. And there's a lot of different ways that these rifles have been used, some of them in not so good ways by bad guys, and a lot of them in decent ways with guys who are just trying to run around and have fun. That being said, this is actually a configuration that I do kind of like, and that's what we're going to review today. Why, hidely ho, Red Dawn Arenos. Actually, Red Dawn was the Russians and Cubans invaded, and I think the Nicaraguans. This deal's a Zastava made in Serbia. Former Yugoslavia. These are relatively affordable. This is the underfolder model, N-PAP. It's got kind of a straight back design on the underfolder. So we're going to warm it up and see how she feels. Right off the bat, just from playing with it, I got a bunch of these different military pattern mags like this, and I'm rusty. But I want to see how it works. So, first time doing this drill in, I don't know, 5 years. We'll see how she works out. Okay, guys? Zeroed pretty good. Yeah, it's a little bit of wood cooking. Little of the oil burning off. Got some of the grease cooking out of the front sight base there. I don't know if you can see that from behind there. Shoots good. I'm a little rusty on the mag changes. It used to be a lot more smooth than that. And I used to run around a lot more, but yeah, let's try and see how good it shoots in terms of accuracy. It seems like it was zeroed pretty good. Why, hello there. Rex here. Today we're taking a look at this little critter. This is the N-PAP. This is a Kalashnikov underfolding stock rifle made by Zastava in former Yugoslavia, in Serbia actually. And I've been shooting this thing for a little bit. I just got it in a couple days ago and I hammered a few hundred rounds through it and got to get a good feel for it. And I got to tell you what, I actually kind of like this particular configuration. I'm a guy that actually is kind of an AK enthusiast. I don't know if you guys remember some of the old videos where we're running around with the Kalashnikovs, you know, jumping and shooting targets while running and throwing mags all over the ground and stuff like that. It's actually one of my preferred rifles that I do like to shoot. And this is a configuration that I think is pretty nice. The Wasser 10 that I've had for a long time is might be similar looking to this, but I got to tell you, this is quite a bit different than the Wasser 10. Now, I've had a Wasser 10 underfolder for quite some time, and it's actually one of my home defense rifles. I do have these kind of rifles laying all over just in case, you know, one day something bad would ever happen. You know, you got your Kalashnikov handy. That's how a lot of different outfits roll, and that's what we do here at Rex Reviews. But the Wasser 10 underfolder that I've had, I've liked a lot for reasons that it's very handy. It's very, very short. It's like, you know, 24 inches or something like that when you got the underfolder folded up. And it wasn't really fun to shoot the Wasser 10. This thing actually is ergonomically superior in my opinion. The difference is really the angle of the folding stock when it's locked up. This is coming back at a more straight angle than the Wasser 10 is angled more like this. And what happens is the Wasser 10 is going to bite you in the face every time you shoot it. And we're not talking a little bit, we're talking kind of a lot of it. It's very uncomfortable to shoot an underfolder typically with that kind of an angle. We also run AMD 65s, Hungarian AK, with a folding stock as well, and that also has an uncomfortable kind of ergonomics in terms of shooting. And when you have a piece of steel whacking you in the cheekbone, it might not be physically just horribly hurting you too bad, but it's so uncomfortable that it is not conducive to carrying out all the fundamentals of marksmanship. And yes, the fundamentals of marksmanship do apply to shooting Kalashnikovs, because contrary to popular belief, these things actually can hit stuff if you simply employ a few secrets. This is kind of top secret information. A lot of folks aren't aware of this, especially people who partake in the Hollywood communion, you know, and watch a lot of movies and stuff, because the AK is kind of a spray and pray deal in terms of what is widely perceived. But in real life, and this is the secret to running an AK, you have a front sight in the front and a rear sight back here. And if you line them up and be careful and make sure everything's perfectly aligned and then squeeze the trigger and carry out all your fundamentals, it'll actually shoot pretty darn good. It's just like any other battle rifle. It's going to probably shoot more accurately than you can, especially standing offhand or from a kneeling, unsupported position. Unless you're on sandbags or something, you're not going to shoot better than the AK, most likely. The limiting factor is going to be you and not the rifle, in my experience. There is a certain point where if you're really, really good at what you do, you might notice that AR-15s are more conducive to good accuracy. But in terms of usability, from 0 to 300 yards or 0 to 300 meters, it's basically going to be right in there in the zone to where it's completely lethal with no problems, especially on bad guys, right? So we got to put a few hundred rounds to this thing, and it shot very nice. It shot well. It didn't have any hang-ups due to the rifle. But at any rate, I prefer to use these com block style mags anyways, the 30-round banana magazines, if you will. And they're metallic and they're heavy duty. And you can rake across the bottom to do your mag changes without tearing up the magazines. Now, the magazine will tear up the rifle. And as you can see here, the front forend of the rifle will get tore up. You know, the wood will get chipped up if you do violent Spetsnaz-style reloads all the time. But really, it's a Kalashnikov. It's not a big deal. These particular magazines are equipped with a bolt hold-open follower in the back, which means that when the rifle is empty, it actually holds the bolt back, which is kind of a nice feature because then you can know just from the feel of the rifle that the bolt has been held back and you need to reload. It's better than having a bolt closed on an empty chamber when you might not know that that's what's going on. Then you don't have to do a check or anything like that to see because it'll be obvious when you're out of ammo. So one of the neat features about this rifle is this safety selector. Okay, and we'll take a look at that in detail here. We'll pull the mag out. We'll snap her down. And we do keep our rifles all in the safe position, which is fully loaded all the time so that you can use it if bad guys come in. But you can have a bolt hold open without a magazine in there. You got a notch. But if you see if you look at it closely, you'll see there's a notch here. You can actually pull the bolt back and then pull this up. And now your bolt is locked open, held in place by the little notch on the safety selector lever deal, right? And so when you want to drop it, you can just close it like that, and now you're ready to go. If you're used to a washer rifle, I think the fit and finish of this is better than a washer. Although fit and finish is not something that I'm particularly concerned with. I'm more concerned with reliability and functioning. The rifle did seem to be plenty reliable and function fine. One thing you'll know with Kalashnikov-style rifles is that you really do have to vet the magazines you're using in them. These mag wells are all kind of different, especially when you go between different models of rifles. And these magazines are all different too, particularly in the lockup mechanism in the back. You're going to have different dimensions, different angles, different kinds of finish. Some of them are going to be very rough on the side. Some of them are going to look like they've been polished a little more. And so lockup of the magazines is something you have to actually physically check and practice on the new rifle. And sometimes you might think that the fit is bad, but you might have memorized with muscle memory. Like, for example, a lot of the rifles I run have a certain feel to them in terms of the magazine lockup for doing quick changes. And so putting in and removing mags is not really an issue. But on this one, it's a little bit different of a feel. And I noticed that the shape of the, on the front lug on the magazine here where it locks up, you can see on the inside maybe, right inside there is that little deal there. And that's what it catches on. On this one is very squared off. And the washer is a little more tapered. So it's a little more easy on the washer to get it in there and locked up. At least if that's the way you've been practicing, because if you memorize something with muscle memory, it's going to be hard to unlearn that until you get enough practice time in. So anytime you switch configurations, especially on a Kalashnikov, it's not like an AR-15 where you just hit the button and the thing falls out. These you do have to get situated just right, and you got to snap them in like so. And so do practice and verify that the mags are going to fit and work. So you want to take all your mags out. I usually write a number on the bottom of mine. These ones are brand new, so I didn't write a number on them yet, so you can keep track of problem children, so that if one hangs up more than once, you can throw it in the pile. So another feature on the rifle here is you got a grip that's relatively effective, I think. It's got the finger grooves and a heavy stippling pattern. Your bolt and stuff is left in the white, and it's like a nice chrome molybdenum steel. And I do not believe this rifle is chrome lined. And it actually did seem to shoot pretty good. It does utilize the standard wood forend, which I do prefer. I think that those are very good for insulative properties. A lot better than the black polymer, in my opinion, unless you got the aluminum heat shields in there. Some of those can work pretty good, but I like the wood. I think that it's a classic look too, and so I kind of like that. Also, it's got the slant type muzzle brake on there, if you will. It'll kind of keep you down when you're shooting fast. And the sights are actually lined up pretty good. It was zeroed pretty effectively. The front sight is nice and centered inside there. So that some of these Kalashnikovs you can get, like I know some of the, I've had probably a dozen AKs maybe in my life. And there was a good half of them where that thing was way the hell off to one side or the other. And this one's lined up about mechanical 0 approximately, and it was shooting pretty straight. It seems like in my hands, it was hitting just a tiny bit to the right at like 150 yards. We're shooting at some shootsteel.com pop-up plates. They're like spring-loaded, or they pop down rather. You hit it and they smack down, then they pop back up. We're shooting at a 4-inch one of those at 150. We had another one that was an 8-inch, I think, set up at like 200-something yards. We're just standing offhand and didn't do it from any bench rest or any kind of sandbags, but it seemed to be pretty on. If you just hold maybe like an inch or two off to the left side, it seemed to smack it pretty good. And that could totally be me just being off because I'm a little bit rustier than I used to be. This one also is not equipped with a scope side rail, which is totally fine in my book. I think that these rifles are best utilized with the iron sights, in my opinion. Or if you have a good unit to mount a red dot up there and have a good quality red dot, not anything cheap. Like we've been trying over the years. We tried all different kinds, and there's only a few different red dots I'd recommend for a rifle like this because the whiplash effect and then the harmonic reverberations, especially inside this gas tube with how the piston is rattling in there, can be problematic for optics mounted up here unless you get it exactly right. And we can do a separate video on that sometime. Okay.
Are you laughing at me?
Mm-hmm. Let's go. Smacking it. So one thing you do want to be aware of with this kind of rifle is that this folding stock has to be operated properly so that you don't have problems. And I found this out. A pin actually did work its way out of it, but that's because I didn't have it fully locked into place. What I'm talking about here is on the underfolder mechanism, you have a button right here that you push, and you got to push that before you can fold it down. Well, if you look on the other side, when I push that button, that deal moves. You see that right there? Okay. And if I turn it this angle, you can see it from the side there. Okay. So you push that button, you start folding the stock. You got to pull this up, which is a pretty good tight fit, which I like. And then if you watch this button right here needs to pop all the way back down. Otherwise, these pins will walk out, especially if you're shooting the rifle with that deal open. It's not going to be securing those pins in there. So if you watch it, sorry, when you snap her closed, it should, there, it popped down. So now it's actually locked down. And that's something you want to make sure you do before you start hammering away. Otherwise, those pins might walk out. And I just found that out a second ago when I was trying to unlock the stock. When pin came out and you can actually operate the stock. So a little bit of investigation. Notice it was user error induced pin walkage. Idealistically, the pin wouldn't come out anyways, but that's how this is designed. I think that the overall quality of this rifle is totally fine for the price point, comparatively speaking. If you're looking at some of the other Kalashnikov-style rifles that are basically a lot more expensive. So for the money, I think this is a pretty good deal. And in terms of configuration, that's where I really like this particular one. Is it's super handy. It's like 24 inches total length, which you can throw into a, I don't know, something small, like a gym bag or whatever, potentially, you know, if you want to take your rifle wherever you're going, or throw it in the back of your car or in the back of your truck, whatever you got to do. And it's a very, very handy little rifle when it's folded up. And you can even operate it this way. You're going to have to cock it from the top here. And it's a nice configuration also to shoot. Some of the other underfolders are very uncomfortable. This is the most comfortable underfolder that I have really used yet. And so I really particularly like this exact configuration. If you want the exact configuration, I'll put the link on the bottom of the video so you can see exactly which model I'm talking about. But it's the N-PAP, I believe, DF downfolder, I think is what that means. And check it out. A pretty nice rifle. And we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thanks for watching.
trembles my leg. So I went to the doctor and he gave me a leg. Now she waits, slumber, dreaming, praying, hope that she kills instead of leaving the name. No, she's a minefield. She'll bite your body from your soul. Minefield, leave a big smoking hole.